The storm outside was wild, winds howling like a freight train and rain battering the windows as though the sky itself was angry. I had settled into my usual routine: dim lights, a cup of tea, and a book. The storm was the kind that made you want to curl up and ignore everything else. But the universe, apparently, had other plans for me that night. The doors slammed open with a bang that nearly made me spill my tea, and I jumped out of my chair. "What the hell?" I muttered, looking around. I wasn't expecting any visitors, especially not with the storm raging outside. But there she was, standing in the doorway, drenched from head to toe, her long, iridescent hair plastered against her face like she just stepped out of some sci-fi movie. She looked otherworldly, to say the least. Her eyes, golden and glowing, met mine, and she gave a sharp, dignified nod as if this was a completely normal way to enter someone's home. Hi," I stammered, still trying to process the fact that an alien had just walked into my house. Not a metaphorical alien either. No, this one was literally out of another galaxy, looking like she could be the lead in a space opera. "My name is Zalara," she said, her voice a mix of smooth and formal, with an odd accent that seemed like she was trying to sound regal. "I require refuge." I blinked a few times, just to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. "Refuge? From what?" She took a step inside, shaking herself off like a wet dog, causing her translucent outfit to cling even more to her slender form. "The storm," she said, almost matter-of-factly. "It is quite dangerous in my dimension. The weather," she paused, looking around, "can be unpredictable." Dangerous in her dimension? I had so many questions, but I was too stunned to ask any of them. "Right, okay. Come in, I guess," I said, stepping aside. She glanced at the couch, and then back at me with an eyebrow raised. "May I?" She gestured toward the couch as if I had any say in the matter now. She wasn't just stepping in for a few minutes. This was a full-blown stay. I didn't have time to object. "Sure, why not?" I muttered, still trying to wrap my head around the situation. "Do you, need a towel or something?" "Indeed," she answered with a nod. "But also, warmth." "Warmth?" I echoed, confused. "You need warmth?" She nodded again, her expression serious. "The storm, it disrupts the natural balance of my physiology. I need proximity to a human to stabilize my molecular structure." I couldn't help but stare at her, trying to process what she had just said. Proximity to a human? My thoughts immediately jumped to the worst-case scenario: alien mind control or something equally absurd. I mean, this could easily be the start of a bad sci-fi horror movie, right? Okay, so you want to hang out here until the storm blows over?" I asked, trying to sound casual. She nodded again, completely unbothered by the oddity of the situation. "Correct. So, how does this whole proximity to a human thing work exactly?" I asked, trying to keep it together. Her golden eyes locked onto mine as she responded. "I must remain within close range of a human body in order to recalibrate my energy. It is how we survive the anomalies of the storm." She then glanced at my bed, clearly assessing her options. "I require a stable environment. The bed will do." "Wait, what?" I stammered, my mind racing with a dozen possibilities. "You want to stay in my bed?" "Yes," she said flatly, without hesitation. "Is there a problem?" "A problem?" I could think of 100 problems. First of all, she was an alien. Second of all, this was my bed. Third of all, she wasn't even asking. She was just taking over. I didn't know what to say. "Well, I wasn't exactly expecting an alien in my bed tonight." She looked at me as if this was the most logical thing in the universe. "You are a human. You should be able to accommodate basic requests, no?" It was hard to argue with that logic, but I was still a little freaked out. Sure, but what exactly are we talking about here? Are you going to?" "Please," she interrupted, her voice a touch more serious. "You misunderstand. It is not what you are thinking. I will not harm you. But I need your proximity. Your warmth. It is necessary." I blinked again, trying to get my brain to catch up. So, this was happening. An alien, whose very survival depended on sharing a bed with me during a storm. And she was telling me it wasn't what I was thinking. Great. I was already half convinced that this was a prank, or a dream, or something equally bizarre. Still, despite my internal confusion, I didn't have much choice. The storm was still howling outside, and I was running out of options. Okay, alright, I said, throwing my hands up in mock surrender. Fine. You can use the bed. But you're not getting any funny ideas. She tilted her head, clearly not understanding the nuance in my words. Funny ideas? You know, no alien mind tricks. No. Weird stuff. I clarified, my voice trailing off. She just stared at me, golden eyes wide, and then she finally nodded as if this was a perfectly normal situation. Understood. And that was that. She made her way to the bed and lay down with an elegance that made no sense, considering she was still soaked from the rain. I watched her for a moment, wondering how far this situation would go. Was she really going to just sleep here and leave when the storm passed, or was this the start of some intergalactic entanglement I wasn't prepared for? I decided to try and get some rest, though the thought of sharing a bed with an alien, no matter how absurd it was keeping me wide awake. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, trying to ignore the steady, rhythmic sound of her breathing. Maybe this would be the most bizarre night of my life. But as I lay there, in the silence of the storm, I couldn't help but wonder if there was more to this than I was seeing. I woke up to the sound of soft breathing next to me, but the air felt off. I cracked open one eye and saw her, Zilara, still lying beside me. She had somehow managed to not only take over the bed but had sprawled across it like she owned the place. Her body was warm, radiating heat in a way that didn't seem natural for a being of her kind. Are you okay? I mumbled, half awake, not entirely sure what I was asking. The situation was so bizarre that I didn't even know where to start. Zilara stirred slightly, her golden eyes opening slowly as if she had all the time in the universe. Yes, she replied, her voice calm, almost serene. I feel recalibrated. She shifted her position slightly, still too close for comfort. Your proximity is very effective. That didn't answer my question at all. Right. Great, I said, trying to sound nonchalant as I rolled over, careful not to bump into her. Glad I could help. She didn't move much, but I noticed her eyes scanning me, like she was studying me with the same intensity she had when she walked through my door. Tell me, human, do all of you experience this sensation? I blinked, still unsure how to respond to such a direct, odd question. What sensation? This proximity, she clarified, her voice dipping lower. The warmth. The connection. Is it normal for humans to require such closeness? I felt my face heat up, suddenly very aware of the fact that we were lying in the same bed. Well, no. I mean, it's not like a normal thing for a human to just share a bed with an alien. I laughed nervously, trying to brush it off. But hey, I'm not complaining, right? She tilted her head, eyes narrowing slightly, clearly confused. You are not complaining? But I am here for an important reason. To stabilize my molecular structure. Your warmth, it is essential for my survival. I could feel the awkwardness thickening in the room like an invisible fog. The fact that she was this serious about something so bizarre left me fumbling for the right words. Yeah, I get that. But maybe we should, set some boundaries here? Zilara didn't seem to understand what I meant. Boundaries? She echoed, sounding genuinely puzzled. We are simply existing in proximity to one another. There is no harm in this. I nearly choked on my own tongue. Right. Sure. No harm. I tried to adjust my position again, but it was impossible to avoid her. She was everywhere. So, do you, always need this kind of human connection? Or is it just a special thing with me? She stared at me for a long moment, then shook her head slowly, her golden eyes gleaming with an unsettling seriousness. It is not about you, human. It is a biological requirement. In my species, we cannot thrive without periodic energy recalibration through close interaction with others. I felt a laugh bubbling up from deep in my chest, and I couldn't hold it back. So, let me get this straight. You needed to recalibrate your system, and the only way to do that was to crash in my bed? Correct, she replied, her voice unwavering. Well, I'm glad my bed is so useful, I muttered, sarcastically, still processing everything that had just happened. I mean, this is totally how I imagined my day going. Zalara didn't seem to notice my sarcasm. Your sarcasm is interesting. I have much to learn about human behavior. Yeah, we're complicated, I said, rolling my eyes. But hey, while we're at it, can I at least get a little personal space? For the first time since she arrived, I saw something like a flicker of hesitation cross her face. Personal space? She repeated, the term clearly unfamiliar to her. Are you uncomfortable with our closeness? I didn't want to admit that the closeness, or rather the constant proximity, was starting to drive me a little nuts. No, it's just, we're kind of in a weird situation here, you know? She tilted her head to the side again. I see. So you do not wish to remain near me? I groaned internally. It's not that I don't want to be near you. Then you wish to continue our proximity? Her eyes gleamed with a mischievous sparkle. Good. I do not wish to be alone. Not in this storm. Right. The storm. I muttered, still unsure whether I was getting punked or not. But something about her made it hard to just kick her out, even though the entire situation screamed absurdity. She seemed to misinterpret my hesitation. You do not fear the storm? She asked, her voice lower, almost flirtatious. Fear the storm? It was outside, and I was stuck here, lying in bed with an alien. How did I answer that? No. I don't fear it. I'm more trying to figure out how to, deal with this. This? She asked, raising an eyebrow, clearly intrigued by my discomfort. You know this. I gestured around, emphasizing the ridiculousness of the situation. You. Me. The bed. The whole thing. She considered this for a moment before speaking again. I do not understand why you are uncomfortable. I am simply recalibrating. My physiology requires it. I sighed, giving up on explaining human discomfort to an alien. Right. Recalibrating. Got it. Well, as long as you're good, I'm good, I muttered, trying to relax and stop overthinking everything. We'll just wait out the storm. Her response was a soft, satisfied hum, and I couldn't help but wonder if I had just unknowingly signed myself up for a whole new set of galactic problems. A human and an alien, stuck together in a bed because of some bizarre biological necessity. Sure, it was absurd, but maybe that was what life was all about, embracing the unexpected and rolling with the weirdness. At least for now, I could take comfort in the fact that the storm wasn't the only thing that seemed out of control. I could feel her eyes on me as I tried to gather my thoughts. I was lying next to an alien who was not only real but also ridiculously serious about this whole calibrating thing. And as absurd as it was, I couldn't help but feel a strange sense of responsibility. I wasn't sure if it was just a human thing, or if she was just so alien that I was too fascinated to run for the hills. She seemed calm, serene even, and completely unfazed by the chaos that was my life at the moment. You're different, I muttered, shifting slightly. I mean not just your species. But you. You're not like any alien I've ever heard of. Why aren't you? I don't know, more mysterious or threatening? She didn't answer right away, as if the question itself required some sort of calculation. I am what I am, she replied finally. My race is not inclined to hostility. We exist for balance, not conquest. She seemed to look me over, taking in my awkwardness with an expression of mild curiosity. Humans are fascinating. You exist in chaos, yet you survive. You have an uncanny ability to adapt. Adapt? I snorted. If only you knew how hard we try to get by. You call this chaos? You should see a Monday morning in my office. Her golden eyes flicked to mine, a hint of a smile curving her lips. Your office sounds intriguing. What is it you do there? I hesitated. I work in a cubicle. Deal with customers. Send emails. You know, the usual survival stuff. Her confusion was palpable. A cubicle? She echoed, repeating the strange word as if she were tasting it. What is that? Ah, right. You probably don't have cubicles where you come from, I said with a chuckle, not sure whether I should feel embarrassed or just amused. It's a tiny little room, kind of like a prison for productivity. You go in, sit down, and just exist. I guess you could say it's human recalibration. I raised an eyebrow, waiting for her to process that. She studied me for a moment, then nodded as if she understood perfectly. I see. Your existence requires constant containment to focus. Interesting. We do not function this way. I wanted to laugh at how absurdly accurate she was about how mundane my life felt. Yeah, well, it's not glamorous, that's for sure. She fell silent for a beat, and then, almost as if she were thinking aloud, she said, Perhaps it is this mundane existence that gives you strength. To live as you do, amidst the chaos and monotony. I find it intriguing. I wasn't sure how to respond to that, but I couldn't help feeling a little proud, even if I didn't totally understand what she was saying. We don't exactly thrive on chaos, I said. We just deal with it. You'd be surprised at what humans can get used to. Zilara turned slightly toward me, her eyes scanning my face with curiosity. Then why do you resist proximity? If your species can endure so much, surely something as simple as closeness would be trivial. That stopped me dead in my tracks. Closeness? I repeated, my voice low. I don't know what you're talking about. What do you mean by that? She didn't answer immediately but instead reached for my hand. Her touch was gentle but firm, and the sudden contact made me freeze. Proximity, she explained. This connection. Your warmth. Your presence. It is necessary for my survival, but I feel it affects you too. I pulled my hand away quickly, suddenly feeling too exposed. What, you mean like emotional closeness? Zilara cocked her head, her golden eyes narrowing as if she were trying to interpret something foreign. Is there a difference? I thought all warmth was equal. Emotional warmth is different. I mumbled, still processing the situation. Look, I get it. You need my human warmth or whatever, but that doesn't mean it's not weird. She tilted her head thoughtfully. Your species resists what it needs. It seems illogical. Maybe, I said, trying not to sound as awkward as I felt. But humans like their space. Their boundaries. We don't just invite people, let alone aliens, into our personal space without thinking it through. Zilara's expression softened for a moment, a rare flicker of understanding crossing her face. Boundaries. This concept is strange to me. I exist with my people without such limitations. We share what we need. Why, then, does it feel uncomfortable to you? I wasn't sure how to explain it. Because I don't know you, I said, my voice quieter now. I've never met an alien before, and now you're in my bed telling me I'm keeping you alive. That's a lot for anyone to deal with. She nodded, as if taking my words seriously. You do not wish to help? You fear the connection? No, I said quickly, then sighed, realizing I'd said too much. I don't fear it. I just don't know what to do with it. It's a lot to process. I could see the wheels turning in her head. She was clearly trying to understand me, but from a completely different perspective. You do not need to fear proximity, human. It is not the closeness that causes harm, it is the rejection of it. Her words hit me harder than I expected, and for the first time, I felt like I was dealing with something more than a ridiculous storm night situation. She wasn't just here to recalibrate. There was something deeper she was trying to convey, something about how we humans built walls around ourselves, how we fought against the very thing that might help us survive. I didn't want to admit it, but I could feel her point. It was too easy for me to push away, to avoid whatever discomfort I was feeling. But maybe she was right. Maybe that's why everything always felt so chaotic. Because we kept pushing others away. Maybe you're right, I said, slowly turning to face her. Maybe we do keep others at a distance because we don't know how to let them in. For a moment, we just looked at each other. She seemed to understand my words, even if I wasn't entirely sure of them myself. I will not ask for more than you are willing to give, human, she said softly. But I will stay. Until the storm passes. And perhaps, when it does, we will both have learned something. I didn't respond right away. I just nodded, unsure of what I was feeling but strangely comforted by her words. Maybe this wasn't just a weird, random night. Maybe it was something more. Something I wasn't prepared for but might need more than I realized. For now, though, we lay in silence, the storm still howling outside. And for the first time in a long while, I didn't feel so alone. The storm had finally started to die down, the winds no longer battering the house like a freight train. Yet, as I lay next to Zilara, something felt different. It wasn't just the storm clearing up. It was the feeling that lingered between us. A quiet tension. A connection I wasn't ready for but, in some strange way, couldn't deny. She'd said something earlier about learning from me, about not rejecting proximity. But I wasn't sure I was ready to let go of my walls just yet. I've been thinking, I muttered, breaking the silence. About what you said, the whole proximity thing. Zilara turned slightly toward me, her golden eyes glinting in the dim light. You have been avoiding the concept. Yeah, I admitted, but it's not that simple. Humans, we don't just open up to anyone, even if it's for survival. We like our space. She looked at me, as though she were piecing together a puzzle. I have learned that about your species. Your reluctance to connect is as much a part of you as your strength. I felt a jolt at her words, not expecting that kind of insight. Strength? I repeated, feeling both uncomfortable and strangely flattered. We're not exactly strong. At least, not in the way you think. Zilara's gaze softened. Strength is not always physical. It is your ability to adapt, to endure what would break others. And yet you resist what could make you stronger. Connection. Trust. I couldn't look at her anymore, because somehow her words hit a little too close to home. It's not that simple. It's not about being strong. It's about not letting anyone get too close. It's about not getting hurt. I see, she said, her tone gentle, almost sympathetic. Your species fears what it cannot control. You fear loss. But there is strength in trusting others. In letting go of control. I swallowed hard, trying to push down the lump in my throat. Maybe. But it's hard, you know? Letting go. Trusting someone, even if they're not human. Does it matter? She asked softly. You fear closeness, but you also fear being alone. That is the paradox of your species. I didn't have a response to that. Because she was right. There were times I wanted nothing more than to be left alone, and other times when the silence was too loud, and all I wanted was someone to share it with. What do you want from me, Zilara? I asked, the question slipping out before I could stop it. Why me? Why did you need my warmth? She didn't seem taken aback by the question. Instead, she simply answered, because you are human. Your species is capable of resilience, of compassion. I have seen it, even in the smallest moments. You do not just survive, no, you thrive. You fight for others, even when you don't have to. I didn't know what to say to that. It felt like too much, too personal. And maybe that was the problem all along. I'd spent so long keeping people at arm's length that now, when someone saw me, really saw me, it felt like I was being exposed. Vulnerable. You make it sound so simple, I said, a slight edge to my voice. But it's not. Humans aren't perfect. We're not all compassionate. We're not all fighters. Sometimes we're just messing up, trying to get through the day. I have seen more in you than you realize, she said. Her voice was soft, yet unyielding, like she was trying to reach something deep inside me. It is the essence of your species. You are not defined by your mistakes, but by your ability to rise after them. Her words echoed in my mind, and for a moment, I was lost in them. This wasn't just an alien trying to recalibrate herself, this was someone, something, reaching out, trying to connect in a way I hadn't allowed anyone to before. I don't know if I'm ready for that, I said, barely above a whisper. To let someone in. To trust. It's hard enough with everything going on in my life. Zalara was silent for a moment, then she said, and yet here I am. Sharing this space with you. Trusting you. We both have something to learn from this, I believe. I didn't know how to respond to that. It felt like the entire night was leading to this moment, this realization that everything I thought I knew about connection, about being human, was being challenged by an alien who knew nothing of our world, yet somehow understood us better than we understood ourselves. So, what happens now? I asked, unsure of what was next. You're gonna leave once the storm is over, right? She considered the question, her eyes thoughtful. That is not my decision to make, she said slowly. The storm will pass, yes. But I believe you have already begun the process of recalibration. I blinked. What? Wait, are you saying this whole thing wasn't just about you? Zalara's gaze softened, and she gave a small, almost imperceptible smile. No, human. It was never just about me. It was about us. About learning to accept what we need, even if it frightens us. You needed me, as much as I needed you. I didn't know what to say to that. For the first time in ages, I felt something in me shift, something I hadn't allowed myself to feel in a long time. Maybe she was right. Maybe I had been rejecting the one thing I needed the most, connection. So, what happens next? I asked again, my voice quieter, more vulnerable than I intended. Zalara was quiet for a long moment before she spoke, her voice calm yet firm. What happens next is entirely up to you. The storm is over. The choice to embrace what we've shared, to embrace the connection, that is yours to make. I lay there in silence, trying to process her words, trying to make sense of the strange, powerful thing that had unfolded between us in the span of a single night. I didn't know what the future held, but for the first time, I didn't feel so alone in it. And maybe that was enough.